Good morning. Here we are again with another invited to talk about geopolitics. Today, again, an Italian, but today the interview will be held in English. Our invited today is Daniele Perra, political analyst, author of 6 books on Eurasia in general, but concretely, he has a book about Ukraine, another one about Pakistan, another one about Caucasus. And in Eurasia overall is his main theme. He writes for the Italian Rivista Eurasia and collaborates with, for example, Spanish magazine Mos Maiorum, among others. Welcome, Daniele. Good morning.
Good morning. And thanks for the invitation, of course.
Thank you. And this week has started, actually Sunday, we have started the week with two major attacks on Russian soil in Crimea and Dagestan, the Autonomic Republic of Dagestan. And how do you read this? You have a book about the Caucasus, specialized on the theme of Kadyrov. What can we learn about? What have you learned that you can explain what happens or what is happening in the scenarios of Ukraine, and now with these terrorist attacks on Dagestan?
First of all, when we speak about Caucasus, we have to consider the fact that this is a very complex region. Geographically speaking, there are many different climates, there are mountains, plains, and so on. There are many ethnicities, there are different religions, there are different languages, many different languages. There are languages with only thousands or a couple of hundreds of people that they are actually speaking them. Russia has tried in many ways during the centuries to control and govern this area. Has tried by force in the 19th centuries with the so-called Ermolov doctrine. I call it Ermolov doctrine in my book. Ermolov was the governor of Caucasus, Russian Caucasus, in the first half of the 19th century. And basically his military strategy was to advancing in a progressive way, destroying every place where the rebels, the Caucasian rebels, could hide. So cutting forests or destroying, burning down villages. After Russia has tried by assimilating the people of Caucasus during the Soviet era, Stalin invented the policy of the nationalities to somehow divide the people of the region, but at the same time keeping them under the control of the central power of Soviet Union. Putin has tried first with by waging war actually against the separatism in the region, and after has tried by promoting economic development and tourism, and trying to transform the region in a sort of a crossroad between north and south of Eurasia. And this is very important, in my opinion, because in recent years, after the intervention, the direct intervention of Russia in the Ukrainian conflict, and with the sanctions regime against Russia, Russia and Iran have developed commerce that exactly in this area, in the Caucasus, and especially in the Caspian Sea. And Derbent is in the Caspian Sea, is very close to the Caspian Sea, and what I think is that probably there is the target of this terrorist group is to somehow attack the development of this trade between Russia and Iran. And by the way, Derbent is also. Yes, tell me.
Is the city where were these attacks. So you're telling that probably the target is to make problems in the new dynamic convergence and the development, economic development that is now being done in the area. Yes, but there's one thing here that probably yes, but there is a question that maybe is important, is that many people thinks that these groups have a Salafist or a Sunni matrix, and they were supported in the 90s by there was Saudi Arabia and Qatar, but now Qatar and Saudi Arabia are also in a different dynamic, also in the BRICS, and who could be now after behind these attacks, because it's not very foreseeable that is the Saudis now. We have read many critics here that they were saying this is on the interest of the Americans and the British. I don't know, but you know more about these things about us. But try to explain this.
Yeah, in this regard, as you said, in the 90s, of course, Saudi Arabia was behind the Wahhabization of the Caucasus, and helped Saudi secret services, and together with the CIA, obviously, and the Pakistani secret services helped transferring militants from Afghanistan to the Caucasus. Actually, before they used to bring them in Azerbaijan, and after from Azerbaijan to Chechnya or Dagestan or Ingushetia. After with Ramzan Kadyrov, and this is what I'm trying to actually first with his father Ahmad, and after with Ramzan. And this is what I try to tell in my book. Ramzan Kadyrov somehow helped Russia to develop close ties with the Gulf countries, with Saudi Arabia, with Qatar, with the Emirates. So today, these groups, these terrorist groups, they don't have anymore the support of these countries. And what I think is, of course, these attacks are related also with the Ukrainian scenario, with the Ukrainian theater, and probably we know that some organized, some criminal organizations from Ukraine are linked with the terrorist group in the Caucasus, and they are selling them weapons probably, or they are just sending them weapons. And of course, it happened before. There are links between these groups and Western services like UK or USA. It was like that in the past. I don't see why it should not be now the same.
Especially now, because the dynamics of the area also, this area is very important because it connects the Iranian world, the Russian world, a little bit more west, the Turks, and the east, China. So, and there are the Uyghurs, all these things. There's a lot of going on there. There's a lot of population, but there's a growth, economic growth, and this is not intended to be like this for the hegemony. And that's why many people think, yes, but also there's a lack of understanding of the of this kind of movements, terrorist movements, where they connect with, for example, the Turkish, historically with the Turkish interests, but also from the in the Second World War with the Germans. When we are talking about Albanians, well, this is a little bit more in the Balkans, but when you go to the Caucasus, Azeris, and many people don't understand that could terrorists from the ISIS and Daesh in Ukraine, when were back in the couple of years, months ago, the terrorist attack in Moscow. Many comments here on the internet, the Europeans were not understanding why could be they're connected, Islamic terrorists and neo-Nazis from Azov or something like that, in these very extremist movements in Ukraine. You want to explain a little bit this historical link between what we could call the Sunni and the Axis in the Second World War, with the Albanians, Italian fascists, neo-Nazis. There is a book from Daniele Ganser, Swiss professor. You might know him, about the NATO secret operations on Gladio, and and those cells were asleep, so they were sleeping until they need, but they exist, they still exist, and the NATO would activate them when they would be needed. They were activated back in the 60s, 70s, and Italy is a good example of what happened there. And now it could be a second wave of this Gladio operation. Can you explain a little bit, because you know much more about that than me?
Yeah, as you said, after the Second World War, the Western countries, especially Great Britain and USA, they helped some members of Nazi Party, but also some members of Waffen-SS. They brought them in the Western countries from Germany, to have them basically fighting Soviet Union. Even in there were many members of the Ukrainian nationalist organizations, such as Bandera or Mikola Lebed, that have they worked basically for MI6 or CIA after the war. Regarding Caucasus, some people, some separatist rebels from Caucasus, they cooperate with Nazi Germany during the war. Nowadays, Chechens are fighting have fought in Syria against Russia with terrorist groups such as ISIS or Al-Nusra Front, which is linked with Al-Qaeda. There are a Chechen battalion that is fighting in Ukraine by the side of Kiev. This is a battalion that is linked with Akhmat Zakayev, which should be in the theory the prime minister of the Free Chechnya, and he lives in exile in London, if I'm not mistaken. So of course there is everything linked, even if we think that we are talking about something different. You quoted before the Azov battalion. The Azov battalion is the ideologists of Azov battalion are they always show their sympathy for ISIS or for the Qaedist methods of fighting in these different areas in Syria or in the Caucasus and so on. So there are links, of course. There are just the media, they are trying to hide it, but it's a dirt war actually.
And this attack in Dagestan was in the same day when the Crimea on the beach there was a big attack with the ATACMS missiles by the Ukrainian forces. Moscow has make the Americans responsible for this attack, and they have called the ambassador. So, where do you think that do you understand? Do you perceive this as a major escalation? And if so, where can it lead now in the next, let's say, couple of weeks? Because it's a very, very unprecedented what is happening.
It depends. It depends about how Russia will react. Yeah, at the moment it looks like it will be an escalation, but at the same time, there is Russia has always been very quiet, I would say. Has always tried to keep a quiet mood in this kind of occasion, even if their political the political members of Putin party are they say something that it can lead us to an escalation after nothing really extreme happens. This is what I'm trying to say. We will see how it's going to be the situation. Probably there will be more attacks on Ukrainian soil, more attacks on Ukrainian cities, but always trying not to reduce, let's say, the number of civilian casualties, which is this is what Russia is trying to do since the beginning of the war, even if we always speak about atrocities committed by Russian soldiers and Russian army.
But you don't think that if nothing is done, Putin can have internal problems over hardliners that will say, look, we are going too far, we are doing nothing to prevent attacks, and NATO is getting what they want? Because this is another thing that about this war. Now, 2.5 years, many people you can see in both ways. You're seeing the multi-polar world developing, Russia getting a lot of more importance and centrality with Africa, with the Middle East, for example, with the OPEC plus, the BRICS. But by the other hand, for example, you see Sweden joining NATO, Finland joining NATO. These were two. Finland, at least, was one of the red lines for the Russians. Mm-hmm. Switzerland now being also an actor of making conference for peace in Ukraine without Russia. So a neutral country, so historical. Neutral country gaining, so pushing towards the West. So you can see in both ways. It's very interesting because many authors think that NATO is winning this war. Some others think no, this is the multipolar world. But the thing is, if NATO can use Ukraine this way to attack Russia, which was another red line. Belgorod is a Russian state city, and is being attacked in the last month. And Russia doesn't do nothing. It cannot bring a hardliner that we will all regret not to understand Putin.
Well, as you said, something already happened in the past. Many times, probably, they overcame this red line of Russia, but still we are here, and nothing extreme is happening still, in my opinion, at least. So maybe we will see a controlled escalation of the war. In Ukraine. As you said, there are analysts that they are saying that NATO is winning. Some other people says that Russia is winning. In my opinion, at the moment, no one is really winning this war. And actually, we can see Russia that is still here in Italy, for example, after 5 days of war, after they were already saying that Russia would finish the gas and the ammunition in 2 weeks. And after 2 years and a half, we are still seeing Russia firing thousands of ammunition every day. So it's the situation is really, it's complicated, but in my opinion, an escalation, we have to consider one thing. Ukraine has not human capital, human resources to invest in the war. So at the end, there are two options: either a negotiation with Russia, or NATO will really intervene directly in the war. I hope there will be a negotiation and not an intervention of NATO, of NATO sending troops on the soil, on the ground in Ukraine. Even if some politicians are like Macron saying it happen, because it would be a real disaster for especially for Europe. Because now, if Trump will win the next election, probably all the cost of the war in Ukraine will end up in the hands of the European countries, while US will try maybe to focus on other theaters, maybe on Taiwan or in the Middle East.
Yes, and you were talking about the losers and the winners. There's clearly that if there is an impasse, or if it is no clear winner so far, at least there is a loser that will be a loser. The first one is Ukraine, that is clear, but the second one is Europe. I mean, you were talking about the perception of this war at the beginning in Italy. I think that it was not much different than the rest of Europe, like here in Germany or in Portugal or in Spain that I follow. That the rhetoric was the same. And Europe is bleeding the taxpayers are paying absolutely crazy war that actually is being sustained by Europe, because the Americans have the possibility and they have the system and to make a business out of this war. So they are lending money that they will receive with even interests, And you talk actually in your book, this book that I have to advise people, Ordini Multipolare. Daniele has one article here that I read, very interesting. And you talk about, let me see where it is, also the war as a business. No, you talk. I think you mentioned the First World War, whereas the United States was a very indebted country, and suddenly after the World War One and for sure after the Second World War, it becomes the creditor of the Europeans, and this is a business. Actually, I don't know if was you in your article, or I read, for example, the English, the Britons have to pay until 2006 the what they owned the Americans from the Second World War. So like 70 years paying back, and that's the business, the model of Ukraine with this BlackRock, everything they are buying, and Ukraine will have to pay this somehow. Probably will the Europeans pay this, or the rest what will left from Ukraine, because Russia won't give up what they have conquered right now. So the European role on all this, you have in Italy, it's very interesting because this Meloni came as a fascist, and the fascists in my time, they were third position. They were against Soviet Union and against the Americans, and now she's very Atlanticist. You have a Minister of Defense, I think, this Crosetto. He's a lobbyist from weapons. He's doing business also out of this war. So they are winning money with this war. How do you see the role of the Europeans and particularly the Meloni in these scenarios?
Well, let me start with what we said before. America considered the First World War as a huge investment, and also the Second World War after, actually, because thanks to this, because they send their troops in Europe, they entered the war when they were sure that no one in the European continent will win this war, neither Germany or Great Britain. So they are the first country that consider the war as a flow of capital and not only a flow of blood. And this is very important because for the US, always a war is a kind of business, a way to fix their economy as well. In 1999. They bombed Serbia with the target to destroy not the Serbian infrastructure, or at least not only the Serbian infrastructures, but mainly the European economy, because the euro was born in 1999 and it could be a competitor of US dollar. After they attacked Iraq, while Saddam Hussein decided to use euro as a currency for this petrol transaction.
Yeah.
So war is a tool for United States to help somehow his economy. Again, in 1999, a lot of capitals fled from Europe, and they went in Wall Street. And when some of these capitals were going to Hong Kong or Shanghai, we had the bombing of the Chinese embassy in Belgrade, accidental bombing of a Chinese embassy, and the capital that they were going in Hong Kong or Shanghai, they ended up again in United States. So again, here in Ukraine, with the war in Ukraine, as you said, the real loser, of course, is Ukraine, because it will never be able to repay what the West gave to it. So it has to sell his resources, and these resources will be sold to American investment funds such as BlackRock and Goldman Sachs and so on, while Europe will not get anything from this war again. As we said before, Europe is going to be the real loser of this war, especially Germany, in my opinion, because this war, since 2014, since the coup in Kiev in 2014, the real target was to separate Western Europe, and especially Germany, from Russia and from the rest as well of Eurasia. So we said something about Giorgia Meloni as well, and actually I don't think that the term fascist is correct regarding about her. She actually entered the politics when Movimento Sociale Italiano was transforming. The Movimento Sociale Italiano was a sort of a neo-fascist party after the Second World War in Italy. Yes. Anyway, this movement, this party was in the 90s, when Giorgia Meloni entered politics, was already transforming itself in a modern European party, let's say, a right-wing party, of course.
Post-fascist. Gianfranco Fini has called them post-fascist. They modernized a little bit the term. Yes, that's when she enters the party in the 90s, yeah?
Yeah, they decided to leave some part of their ideological path behind. And by the way, I believe also that there is a deep difference between fascism and neo-fascism and post-fascism as well, because neo-fascism and post-fascism are a product of the Cold War, and neo-fascism in Italy has a history, with some exception. Of course, you said something about third position. Neo-fascism has a history of cooperation with the secret services, with the secret structures of NATO, such as Gladio. Again, we named it before. So let's say that somehow neo-fascism is a sort of Western product, and while the original fascism, at least theoretically, was not. It was purely European or Italian in this case. And when I say Western product, I mean that comes from the West as a geopolitical space dominated by United States. And in this regard, Giorgia Meloni can embrace, let's say, the story of neo-fascism. This is based on Atlanticism, or a clear stance with Zionism, and so on. But yeah, in my opinion, she's not. She cannot be called a fascist, let's say.
Yes, but she has also this guy Crosetto. This Crosetto has come also from another part, from the system, for sure. I mean, and now he's a lobbyist of the weapons. You don't see here a scheme of the war in Ukraine as a business model from the Americans, also bringing the military complex, industrial complex from the Europeans to join this business, while there are people dying in the front, civilians being recruited and sent to war, to a war that they won't win anyways.
Yeah, of course, the parliaments of the European countries, and even the European parliaments, are full of lobbyists, and this is what actually is happening. I mean, we are copying the American system, and by copying the American system, we have this situation in Europe as well. There is no more ideology. There is only economic and financial interests, and so on. As we said before, war is a business like any others, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we see also a big gap developing between the political classes, like Macron, von der Leyen, all these people, from which now they have the support of these so-called fascists like Meloni. They have joined this, and the guys in Spain, but they are not in the power now. Vox and all these guys, they will be more deceived as Meloni is. But there are some split, some things here happening in the right wing scenario in Europe. I don't know if we talk about this today, because I don't know if I told you, said that would be one of the themes to talk. There is now a split in the right wing extremists in the European Parliament, and Meloni and Le Pen are in a side, but the Germans are doing different thing. I think there is something very to do with the geopolitical scenario in Ukraine, because the Germans from the AfD, especially the guy who was the head runner, Maximilian Krah, as a perspective that doesn't fit with Meloni and Le Pen. I don't know if you want to talk about this, if you are aware of what's going on there.
So yeah, let's say that basically, okay, Giorgia Meloni is already governing in Italy. Le Pen has the aspiration to govern in France, and if you want to govern to have a power position in Europe, which is a sort of periphery of the West of the United States empire, let's say empire, even if I don't like to call it empire, it's something different. If you want to have political power position in Europe, you need to have a clear stance on Atlanticism, on support on Israel, for example, on support of Ukraine, and so on. And the German political party AfD recently has changed some positions, actually, because in the past it was also a bit linked with the Trumpism, with some American groups that had a different international
but they have still
position.
But they have still this guy Maximilian Krah is also, actually, he studied in New York, and he is member of the New York Young Republicans or something like that, and he fully supports Trump. But
he has been accused of spying for China, and the thing actually is, it was a bit strange for me to hear this thing, and I didn't believe it. Probably it's not true, or it's not entirely true.
But it's
okay,
not like
he also had a clear.
Yes, but this actually, he was not personally accused. He had a member of his team who was a Chinese citizen that was by the BND, the German intelligence services, was accused being using sensitive information from the European Parliament to China. But this was never proven. Actually, the only thing that was proven was that this guy, this Chinese guy, has been fired since then, was applied to be to spy for the BND, the Germans, and he was recused. Like 1 or 2 years ago, they didn't want him. And the only thing that he was actually passing information to was to Saxony, the state of Saxony, the cabinet on security for the constitution, which is kind of the information services from the state, in 2007. And this guy was a trade expert from China, and this Kra has also replied very well to the press. He said, "No, I won't fire him," but actually he did afterwards fire because the pressure was too much. Said no because he gives me information from the Chinese market, and I am a German deputy in Brussels, and I won't give up to make the best I can do for the automobile industry, to a giant market like the Chinese. So he was a very good advisor for that market. Gigantic market, the biggest market for the Germans. Yes, that was the accusation, because I think they want to target him. The press did all these scandals to target him.
Yeah, by the way, he has been criticized because he said something about Waffen-SS. Now I don't remember exactly. I know he said that they were not all criminals, but this is a bit weird because we criticize Kra because he said this thing, but on the other side we are helping groups that are clearly neo-Nazi in Ukraine. So there is some kind of ambiguity in the European politics, and somehow sometimes we are even a bit ridiculous with these media campaigns against someone that maybe he's not following the right agenda of the West.
Yes, I think that is more or less the thing. But now they are not, doing a new party, a new group in the European Parliament. So there is this Confederatia. Maybe this is not yet. It's not clear that it will be done with the Confederatia. Is another right-wing extremist party from Poland, another one from Bulgaria. In Spain, there is another one. The party is over. La fiesta se acabó, which is populist and is taking votes from the Vox party. So they are generating a new thing, a new group, but with a multipolar view, because this Kra has said, no, there is a new world coming now. This global south will be very important. And we want Germany to have to be a pole on this multipolar world. And European Union is still very important to Germany. At least he understands this, that Germany is dependent on the European Union, because he says, if now the Italians, French, and the Spaniards they go their way, they will start imposing us problems in the industry and to buy in the trade, and then they will do the Nordic guys will do the same, and then the Eastern guys will do the same. At the end, Germany is over. That's why many people say that since 2014, the real target was Germany. Was the biggest competitor to the Americans. That's why they needed to do a kind of a trap to the Germans and the Europeans in general to go to Ukraine. I don't know if you have some thoughts about this.
Yeah, he basically understood that the real target was Germany, because Germany is, from an economic perspective, is a problem to United States. So they really try to put a wall in the Eastern Europe in order to separate, as I said before, Germany and Russia. What happened to the Nord Stream is another clear example, and this is almost unbelievable that an infrastructure of a NATO member has been attacked by other NATO members. This is even if they didn't admit it. And basically, I think that Kra understood that now somehow they are trying to build a sort of a circle around Germany with NATO countries such as Italy, UK, and Poland, a sort of a triangle that is somehow has the target to control, to contain to control and contain Berlin, to control and contain Germany.
Isolate them, actually.
And to isolate it, of course, because Germany, as you said, used actually the European Union to make itself rich. There are some vassals state of Germany in the European Union, basically. But at the same time, Germany is a vassal of United States, and nowadays. So there are this geopolitics, European geopolitics is we have to read it in different and many levels. Actually, it's not only one level. And this it needs a lot of time really to explain all these things, and probably thousands of pages, or if we try to write it down.
Yeah, there would be many theses to explain what is happening. Is a multi-layered thing with the dollar on the top, the euro working for the dollar and being dragged to their system, while there is a new system, the multipolar world, already giving their first steps. So that's why I invite you to come here for different interviews, making this my fault, mea culpa, organizing this in a way that is more understandable to the public. We have to talk about the BRICS, the Middle East, what's going on in the Eastern Mediterranean, the Balkans. It's everything that you know very well. Also, Central Asia. There are many things.
Yes, let me say one thing just to conclude, because as we say in Italian, we abbiamo messo molta carne al fuoco. There is a lot of meat on the barbecue, let's say. What I want to say is that basically we saw in the recent G7 meeting in Italy that the West basically is ignoring its progressive decline, which is, in my opinion, is clear, but at the same time continues to celebrate itself, and this is actually a problem. Everything tells us that the unipolar order is already ended, but we still act like nothing happened, basically. And we see it every day. We have India, for example, that is inside the BRICS, but at the same time is fighting with China, even if it's inside the BRICS. India that is supporting Israel in the Middle East, but is at the same time is buying gas and petrol from Iran. So the world is getting very complicated. This is my conclusion. And this is something that also some American political scientists say, like John Mearsheimer, that said that the multipolar world, at least in the beginning, would be much more complicated than the unipolar world and the bipolar world during the Cold War. So we have to be prepared for the next decades, because they are going to be really a challenge.
It's a big challenge, especially for us in the West. We were used to be the strong link of the relations, and now the things will be different. So, Daniele, thank you very much for your presence. You are invited to continue this conversation. We have a lot of things to add in the future interviews.
Whenever you want. Thank you.